Hello, Laverne here, and I'd like to thank you for joining me. May this video be a blessing to you and to your loved ones, and may it honor and glorify God in His kingdom. Over the past few weeks, I've been asked by different people if I could speak on several different topics. Some people have wanted me to talk on faith and the things we can do to increase our faith so that we can draw closer to God. Some people are struggling with their faith, that they are finding it waning, and they want to know what they can do to get back to how they once believed, or simply how to increase their faith and draw closer to God. Others have asked me to speak on spiritual warfare, what we can do to fight off, to stave off the enemy. Others have asked about sin. What can we do to enable us to be better able to resist sin? There are some people who are feeling heaviness because they feel they've repented, and yet they still find themselves falling back into sin. And because they do, they feel a conviction of the Holy Spirit and a real heaviness that they are unable to shake. So these are three different subjects, but the three are actually connected with one another in many instances. So what I'm going to be doing is making a number of different videos, because if I were to try and take on the three and show how they are all connected, the video would be roughly 3 hours long, and I don't want to make the video that long. So instead, I'm going to look at subtopics and show how either all three or two of these things are connected with one another. Now, the first thing I like to talk about is blood. I'm going to look at the Old Testament laws regarding blood and why it is that we should not ourselves eat blood, but yet why Yeshua tells us we are supposed to eat His blood, or rather drink His blood and eat His flesh, for it really does seem to contradict Old Testament laws. If we're not supposed to eat blood, if we are not, or if we are also considered to be defiled if blood touches us, why then does it make sense, and why would we be instructed to drink the blood of the Messiah? Well, we know that some of the disciples had a serious problem with this, and they left Him because they felt this teaching was too hard, that they simply couldn't understand it. It didn't make sense. And there's no way, given the Old Testament laws, that they would even symbolically consider drinking the blood of the Messiah. So this is something I'm going to be looking at as well. I like to look at the Lord's Prayer and examine a portion of it that actually speaks to a deliverance prayer. There is within the Lord's Prayer a short deliverance prayer that we should be saying 3 times a day. So these are the two things I'm going to be talking about and showing how they are interconnected, and how, if we understand them, we will be able to draw closer to Yahweh. When we understand what really is in the blood, it then makes sense why blood was considered to be defiling, why someone would be considered to be defiled if they came in contact with either animal blood or human blood. And if we understand what is in the blood of a person or an animal, it then makes sense why we must not eat blood. Why, if you like your steak rare, you need to refrain. You need to change your eating habits so that you are not consuming blood. You see, it is believed that the soul is in the person's blood. The blood of an animal and the blood of a person actually contains the soul of that person or animal. Therefore, when you come in contact with the blood of an animal or the blood of a person, you are coming in contact with their very soul. And parts of their soul then will come in contact with your soul, with your being. And you will, in essence, become infected by that animal or that person's soul. This is why, under the Old Testament, people would have to go through a ritual if they came into contact with the blood of an animal or a person. And in doing so, what this ritual did, it cleansed them, which is another way of saying they were delivered of that person or that animal's soul. Because every soul, every animal, every person is carnal in nature. And you are taking on the characteristics then of that evil, corrupt soul. This is why a person would have to go through a ritual to deliver themselves of the soul of that animal or person. Now, regarding Yeshua, this then makes perfect sense that he instructs us to drink his blood, and why drinking his blood would not defile us, because he was sinless, because he is the final sacrifice. He is the sacrificial lamb. His blood is very different from the blood of any animal or any person. Unlike the blood of a person or an animal, that it is corrupt and therefore defiles us, the blood of Yeshua actually cleanses us. We are cleansed. We are made clean by the blood of Yeshua. And this means our very soul then becomes cleansed with the soul of the Messiah. This is why we are to drink his blood. And it's why that makes sense where eating blood of an animal does not. Being washed in the blood of the Messiah, that makes sense when coming in contact with the blood of another person defiles us. We do not want the characteristics, we do not want the corruption of an animal or another person's blood. But the blood of the Messiah, well, that's very different. We want to be washed in his blood. We want to drink his blood because we become cleansed by a perfect soul, a divine being. This is why we drink his blood. And this brings me to what you can do. You see, there are many people who haven't taken part in the Lord's Supper, perhaps never in their life, or perhaps not for many years. And the reason is because they no longer go to church. But this is something that you should still take part in, that you should be practicing, even if you are living alone, as I am. From time to time, I do buy a bottle of wine, and I'll take some bread, and I'll take part in the Lord's Supper, even if it's by myself. And I will renew the covenant with the Messiah. I will renew our covenant, and I will drink his blood so that I am becoming cleansed by it. This is the meaning of drinking the wine and eating the bread. We are eating his flesh. We are drinking his blood because it is all life-giving. Hopefully, this now makes sense to you, and you will be able to draw closer to the Messiah, to Yahweh, if you haven't been practicing this. If you start doing this over time, you will find that you are drawing closer, and you are having a greater sense of peace, and heaviness will be lifting from you. Now, regarding evil spirits and demons, Peter tells us in Clementine's homilies that if we sit down and we eat food that's been sacrificed to idols, we are, in effect, sitting down and feasting with demons. This is why we must not eat food that's been sacrificed to idols. Well, the same thing goes for eating blood. Even as believers, if we are eating blood because we like our steak rare, then we are sitting down and feasting with demons, and we are inviting them into our very soul. We are inviting them to come on in and to influence us, to guide us, to instruct us. And in doing so, we will grieve the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit, because light will not abide in darkness, the Holy Spirit will leave us. So deliverance is something that we should be practicing on a regular basis, because the longer an evil spirit is allowed to stay attached to us in some way, the greater influence that spirit will have in us, and the greater, influence it will have on us. So we can actually, on a regular basis, deliver ourselves. We can create also an environment that is not enticing to evil spirits and demons, because Peter explains in Clementine's homilies that evil spirits and demons do not have physical bodies of their own. The only way they can enjoy the things in this world is through a host. They have to be in a host in order to enjoy blood, in order to enjoy meat, in order to enjoy sexual relations, and so on, in order to enjoy violence. All of these things an evil spirit can only enjoy through a host. Now, we can create an environment that is not enticing, but rather repelling to an evil spirit, or most evil spirits and demons. If we do not eat meat, for example, which is something demons love, if we do not partake in fornication, adultery, this is something that demons and evil spirits want to take part in. But if we aren't, then they will move on, most of them will move on to someone that will be doing those things so they can enjoy the things of this world. They lust after the things of this world, and so they seek out a host that also lusts after the things of this world. So by giving these things up, by rejecting the things of this world, we create an environment that will be repelling to evil spirits and demons. We won't be opening doors to them. And of course, sin, the occult, Ouija boards, and so on, tarot cards, getting involved in those things will also open up doors to evil spirits and demons. Now, how can you on a regular basis deliver yourself of evil spirits? Well, you can do that by saying the Lord's Prayer 3 times a day. The reason I suggest this is because we find in the writings of the Didache, which is also known as the teaching of the 12 apostles, what we find is there is the instruction that every believer should be saying the Lord's Prayer 3 times a day. Now, within that prayer, we have the lines, "Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." Some translations say, "Deliver us from the evil one." Well, this is actually a very short deliverance prayer. We are asking to be delivered from the evil one, and as well, this then includes evil spirits, demons, the disciples and apostles of Satan. So we are praying 3 times a day if we do this. And therefore, on a regular basis, we are asking to be delivered of these evil spirits. And of course, you can go further and you can say something like, "I command you in the name of Yeshua to be gone. Be gone in his holy, righteous name." And you can go on as long as you like. But we should be doing these things on a regular basis in order to ensure that no evil spirit is getting a hold in us. And we can do that. If we take on the tradition of, if we do it more often than what we have been, taking part in the Lord's Supper, anytime we get together and we are fellowshipping with other believers, we should be taking part in the Lord's Supper. In doing so, we are taking on the soul of the Messiah. He truly does then come in us, and we are in him, and we are repelling evil spirits and demons. All right, as always, I look forward to your comments and messages. Hopefully you've found something in here that you weren't aware of before, and that I've given you a couple of suggestions that I believe if you follow through with them, you will find yourself just being better protected from evil spirits and demons, and as well you will draw closer to Yahweh. Till next time, peace and blessings.